A tycoon's heir, a president's daughter, a secret child, and a multi-billion-dollar fortune ripped apart in a family feud. It sounds like the premise of a Korean drama, but this is no fiction. It's a real-life saga. Today's protagonist is the heir to SK Group, one of South Korea's largest conglomerates, a man who landed in prison twice in his middle years. His devoted wife waited patiently for him through half her life. Yet, upon his release, he dove headfirst into an extramarital affair, publicly proclaiming his new lover and a 5-year-old child born out of wedlock. The result? A divorce settlement of astronomical value. On a micro level, this is an elite family's internal struggle, but on a macro scale, it could send shockwaves through South Korea's economy. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we unravel the most enigmatic cases and the most thrilling stories. As always, before we kick off today's video, please drop a like and subscribe to Support Us. Now, let's dive into the divorce dubbed Asia's most expensive. On March 31st, 1961, Roh So-young was born into a prestigious family that inspired envy across South Korea. Her father, Roh Tae-woo, was a titan in the nation's political sphere. Rising from humble roots, he climbed relentlessly to become president, a political grand slam by any measure. The year 1985 marked a turning point for Roh So-young. Her father ascended to the chairmanship of the ruling Democratic Justice Party, poised to assume the presidency. That same year, at age 24, she traveled to the United States to study at the University of Chicago. It was there she met the man who would define her destiny, Chae Tae-won. Chae Tae-won was no ordinary man. He was the son of Chae Jong-hyun, chairman of the Sunkyung Group, now SK Group, one of South Korea's most powerful chaebol families. Founded in 1953, SK stood alongside Samsung, Hyundai, and LG as a cornerstone of Korean industry. Roh So-young and Chae Tae-won, two of South Korea's brightest heirs, met far from home, instantly drawn to each other and swept into a passionate romance. By all accounts, Chae was a fervent suitor. During winter breaks, when university dining halls closed, he cooked for Roh So-young himself. He showed his care through thoughtful gestures, always attentive to her needs. The couple played tennis together often, living a blissful student life that could spark envy in anyone. Their romance, kindled abroad, united two hearts from Korea's most influential dynasties. With love flourishing, marriage became inevitable. In 1988, as Roh Tae-woo won the South Korean presidency, the relationship between Roh So-young and Chae Tae-won gained official sanction. In September that year, they held a private wedding at the Blue House, South Korea's presidential residence, officiated by the Prime Minister. After their marriage, they welcomed 3 children. Yet, beneath the seemingly romantic and idyllic wedding lay a reality steeped in strategy. Both families belonged to Korea's uppermost echelons, forming an alliance too weighty to ignore. No matter how you viewed it, this was no simple love match. At the time, South Korean media and prominent commentators openly noted that the union epitomized the deep ties between government and chaebols. Some even criticized it as a marriage of politics and commerce. Why such assertions? As early as November 1980, SK Group stunned the business world with a deal that shook South Korea. The acquisition of the state-owned Korea National Oil Corporation, a behemoth far larger than SK at the time. Korean media called it the shrimp swallowing the whale. Rumors swirled that the deal's success owed much to Roh Tae-woo, then National Security Commander. He allegedly intervened in the bidding process, adjusting rules to let SK acquire UOC at a price far below market value. Following this coup, SK Group entered a phase of meteoric growth. By the early 1990s, as South Korea's economy surged and the government urged conglomerates to expand, SK, bolstered by the Roh family's political clout, solidified its dominance in energy and boldly ventured into strategic sectors like telecommunications, chemicals, and semiconductors, cementing its status as a pillar chaebol. In 1998, Chae Tae-won officially took the helm of SK Group. While maintaining its core businesses, he aggressively expanded into new territories, notably investing heavily to acquire Loewen Entertainment, the company once home to K-pop star IU. This move not only strengthened SK's industrial dominance, but also marked its entry into South Korea's booming cultural and entertainment sector. By then, SK Group had risen to become South Korea's third largest chaebol, trailing only Samsung and Hyundai. But just as SK reached its zenith, Roh Tae-woo, Che's father-in-law, faced a catastrophic fall. On November 16, 1995, Roh Tae-woo was investigated and arrested in a political purge campaign. He faced charges of amassing and embezzling illicit political funds. Prosecutors revealed he had accumulated illegal assets worth $1.125 billion, a staggering sum that shocked the nation. A year later, the Seoul District Court sentenced him to 22 years and 6 months in prison. A harsh verdict reflecting South Korea's resolve to clean up its political landscape. Yet, reality often outstrips even the wildest K-drama plotlines. In December 1997, the Asian financial crisis erupted, plunging South Korea into chaos. To stabilize society, President Kim Dae-jung issued an amnesty for 1,500 prisoners, including Roh Tae-woo. The former Titan served just over a year before calmly walking out of prison and returning home. Though Roh Tae-woo was freed, the scandal dealt a crushing blow to his daughter, Roh So-young. Once a noble heiress, she was now branded the daughter of a corrupt politician, facing relentless public scorn. To shield her husband and SK Group from the fallout, she chose to retreat from the spotlight. While other heiresses attended lavish galas, Roh quietly embraced the roles of dutiful wife and mother, raising their 3 children and ceding the stage to her husband as he built his empire. Thanks to the foundations laid by his father-in-law, Che Tae-won steered SK Group smoothly, its growth largely unscathed by his wife's family turmoil. We cannot say with certainty whether Che Tae-won's initial pursuit of Roh So-young was driven purely by love. What is clear, however, is that by this point, his treatment of her began to reflect self-interest. With his position secure and his wife's family in decline, he grew increasingly absent, leaving child-rearing almost entirely to Roh. Within SK Group, she held no formal role or influence. Gradually, she faded into the background of her own marriage, marginalized in both family and career. By 2000, to outsiders, Roh So-young appeared to embody the archetypal chaebol wife, tending to children, managing the household, and making obligatory appearances at family events. But in reality, her life had quietly veered onto a new path. With their children growing up and her marriage to Che Tae-won reduced to a formality, the couple began living separately. Roh So-young refused to let her life revolve solely around family. On December 1st, 2000, she stepped out of her gilded cage and took the role of director at the Nabi Art Center, located on the 4th floor of SK Group's Seorin building in Seoul's Jongno district. From then on, the titles Roh Heiress and Che's wife gave way to Director Roh. It seemed like a fresh start for her career and life, but sadly, this golden period lasted only 3 years. In 2003, Che Tae-won found himself entangled in legal troubles, sentenced to 3 years in prison for illegal stock trading and embezzlement. Absent in good times, he turned to Roh So-young first when crisis struck. Once again, she stepped up, navigating a storm of challenges, running between contacts, pulling strings, and leveraging relationships to mitigate her husband's sentence, all while fending off a barrage of negative media coverage. Most heartbreakingly, during this turbulent period, their youngest son was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, a chronic condition requiring lifelong insulin injections. By day, Roh shuttled between courtrooms and prisons. By night, she kept vigil at her son's bedside. Those years ground her down, reality crushing her spirit time and again. Yet, with unwavering resolve and extraordinary strength, she held her family together. But does sacrifice always bring reward? After his release from prison, Che Tae-won resumed his self-serving ways, maintaining the separation from his wife without a hint of gratitude or remorse for the woman who had shouldered every storm during his darkest years. In 2009, fate dealt Roh So-young another crushing blow. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. Shortly after surgery, doctors delivered devastating news. The cancer had spread to her lymphatic system. The once poised and elegant Director Roh became frail, her face pallid, her eyes heavy with grief and exhaustion. In this period, Roh So-young all but extinguished any hope in her callous husband. She poured her dwindling strength into her health and running the Navy Arts Center, refusing to waste another moment on the man who had forsaken her. But in an unforeseen twist, in 2013, Chae Tae-won found himself behind bars again, this time for embezzlement, sentenced to 4 years in prison. Though her heart had long grown cold, Roh, bound by duty to her family and children, stepped up once more. She lobbied tirelessly, pulling every string to secure aid. Thanks to her efforts and a clemency policy under President Park Geun-hye, Chae served a mere 6 months before striding out, brimming with bravado as if untouched by scandal. One might have hoped that 2 stints in prison would jolt him into reflection. Instead, the opposite unfolded. He not only shunned his family, but flaunted his extramarital affair with brazen disregard. Reports suggest Chae Tae-won's affair began in 2010, during his separation, but before any divorce. In a letter to Roh So-young, he formally requested a divorce, citing irreconcilable differences spanning over a decade. He claimed their marriage had grown cold and that by chance, he had met a woman who offered him true comfort, sparking dreams of a new life. While admitting he should have sought divorce before starting the affair, he excused his inaction, stating, "Too many factors needed consideration." He concluded by expressing a desire for an amicable end to the marriage, promising to compensate Roh and their children for their pain. Notably, Chae publicly acknowledged his out-of-wedlock child, vowing to fulfill his duties as a father and support the child's mother. He declared, "Maintaining 2 families simultaneously is impossible and wrong." These words might seem noble, but in the context of Roh So-young's years of raising 3 children alone, like a living widow, while he lived freely with his mistress, such moral posturing rings hollow, stirring bitterness and outrage. Predictably, the letter's release ignited a firestorm across South Korea. Beyond widespread condemnation of Chae as a faithless husband, the public's curiosity fixated on one question. Who was this mistress who could so thoroughly captivate a seasoned, steely tycoon, clouding his judgment and driving him to demand her elevation to wife? Chae even proclaimed, "She loves me for who I am, not my wealth." Naturally, South Korea's Sherlock Holmes sleuths didn't rest. Within days, the woman's identity was laid bare. Her name was Kim Hee-young, born in December 1975 in Seoul to a middle-class family. At 17, she moved to Illinois, USA for studies, adopting the name Chloe. In 2002, she married a Korean American, had a son, and gained U.S. citizenship. In the following years, she was active on Cyworld, a popular South Korean social platform, sharing glimpses of a contented family life as a quintessential middle-class wife and mother. But fate took a sharp turn. Cracks formed in her marriage, and by 2008, she and her husband divorced. She left with little but secured custody of her son. Divorced, a single mother, and forging a new path, Kim Hee-young faced a turbulent turning point. It was then that she returned to South Korea. Officially, she met Chae Tae-won at a private gathering in the summer of 2008. But whispers in elite circles tell a more dramatic tale. Rumors claim that as early as 2003, during Chae's first prison term for illegal stock trading, Kim appeared at a prison counseling program as a therapist. Both parties vehemently denied this connection. Yet, aligning the timelines, an earlier covert bond cannot be ruled out. Picture it, a chaebol heir, confined and conflicted, and a gentle, empathetic therapist skilled at listening. In the vulnerable, cloistered prison environment, emotions like loneliness, pity, or dependency could easily spark. By 2008, Kim, freshly divorced and emotionally adrift, crossed paths with Chae again at a private event. He, burdened by business pressures and a fractured family, was equally unmoored. Their shared vulnerabilities ignited a connection, and their entanglement was hardly surprising. In 2010, Kim Hee-young secretly gave birth to Chae's daughter in Hong Kong. From then on, South Korea's elite quietly dubbed her the Hanam-dong Lady, a nod to the affluent Seoul neighborhood where she resided. In rare leaked photos, Kim didn't exude glamour or hauteur. Instead, she embodied a serene, healing elegance, soft features, subtle makeup, a gentle smile, radiating calm femininity. Perhaps it was this unpressured, non-competitive aura that ensnared Che, a battle-hardened tycoon, offering him solace. By late 2015, with their daughter reaching school age, Che, in his words, found courage in love. Through World Journal, he published a 3-page letter admitting his years-long affair, acknowledging his daughter, and formally requesting a divorce from Roh So-young. The timing, however, was impeccably calculated. Why 2015? Beyond the growing difficulty of concealing his daughter, a critical factor emerged. South Korea had just repealed its law criminalizing adultery. Previously proven infidelity could lead to a 2-year prison sentence. With the law relaxed, Che dropped all pretense, boldly announcing his divorce demand that very night. In truth, he had privately pressed for divorce multiple times, but Roh had consistently refused. According to Hankiora, the letter's public release aimed to leverage media and public pressure to force Roh's consent. That same night, Roh responded via an interview with Kookmin Ilbo. "I don't want a divorce," she said. "I'll do everything to protect my children and family." Her quiet, desperate words stood in stark contrast to Che's saccharine ode to his true love. Roh appeared fragile yet resigned, even shouldering the blame, saying, "It's my fault for not understanding his feelings, for hurting him." Astonishingly, she offered to raise her husband's daughter with his mistress, clinging to their hollow marriage. At this point, many might feel indignation, exclaiming, "Why won't she divorce him? Why hold on to a betrayer like that?" But Roh's refusal wasn't rooted in lingering love. She was clear-eyed, employing a temporary strategy. Her aging parents were frail, and she feared a divorce would be a fatal shock. More critically, she held no shares in SK Group. A hasty divorce would leave her with nothing, jeopardizing her children's future. Parents who love their children plan for the long term was her guiding principle. Until her children's futures were secured, divorce was not an option. Kim Hee-young, however, lacked such patience. In 2017, she and Che co-founded the TNC Foundation, named after them both. Kim began flaunting her philanthropy and took on the directorship of Jeju's Nho Museum. Che, eager to legitimize Kim as his partner, filed for divorce mediation with Seoul's family court in July 2017. On November 15th, the first mediation session failed when Roh did not attend. The court escalated the case to formal litigation, scheduling a trial for February 2018. The proceedings remained private, but the outcome revealed Che's failure to secure the divorce. Undeterred, Roh So-young prepared her counteroffensive. Her first step, scrutinize Che's assets. Divorce was possible, but only with a fair division. Though Kim claimed to love Che, not his wealth, Roh quipped she'd take the money. Enlisting a legal team, she analyzed South Korea's asset division laws, SK Group's financial operations, and Che's potential tactics to conceal wealth. SK's vast fortune, with complex share structures and subsidiary ties, demanded precision to ensure her rightful share. Simultaneously, she fortified her children's futures. Eldest daughter, Che Yoon-jung, after graduating from Beijing International School in 2008, studied biology at the University of Chicago. She researched at Chicago's Brain Science Institute, interned at Harvard's Physical Chemistry Lab, and joined SK Group's biotech division in June 2017, rising to a part-time strategy manager. Second daughter, Che Min-jong, excelled at Peking University in Business Administration, graduating in 2014. She voluntarily enlisted in South Korea's Navy, a rare move for a chaebol heiress, earning the rank of lieutenant. In 2019, she joined SKH Confluent Semiconductor Research at SK Hynix, focusing on international trade and policy coordination. Youngest son, Che In-geon, graduated from Bodoin College in physics in 2018, joined Boston Consulting Group, and later SK's energy division via open recruitment. With her children's careers secured within SK, Roh could focus on her counterattack. On December 7, 2019, Roh filed a counter-lawsuit, agreeing to divorce but demanding a division of Che's assets, including 42.39% of his SK Group shares, valued at approximately $1.18 billion USD. She also sought a court order barring Che from transferring SK-related assets and requested $272,727 for emotional damages. These demands rattled Che and SK, as the asset split could strip him of his majority shareholder status, risking a power struggle. Roe argued that SK's growth owed much to her father, Roe Tae-woo, and her family's contributions warranted a substantial share. Che countered that the wealth stemmed from generations of his family's efforts, questioning Roe's contributions and the scale of her demands. The dispute transcended a mere divorce, evolving into a power struggle among Korea's elite. Yet, a mother's decades of toil, raising 3 exceptional children single-handedly, cannot be erased with a claim of no contribution. And let's not forget, who secured Che's release from prison twice? South Korean media weighed in. Outlets like Jungang Ilbo expressed sympathy for Roe's counter-lawsuit, viewing her as a victim forced to fight back after years of preserving her family. Conversely, Chosin Ilbo and others criticized the public spectacle, arguing Roe's demands were excessive and hinted at a power grab. Public sentiment largely favored Roe, decrying Che's infidelity and harsh treatment as morally unjust. The narrative of the wife's revenge gained traction, becoming a societal flashpoint. This divorce commands attention because, while a family matter on the surface, SK Group, South Korea's second-largest conglomerate, significantly impacts national GDP. Even minor shifts in its power structure could disrupt capital markets, supply chains, and economic stability. Throughout 2020, Korean courts urged Roe and Che to pursue mediation. But with the divorce a national sensation, could a quiet resolution still be possible? Roe So-young stood firm on her demands, while Che Tae-won insisted that SK Group shares could not be divided, offering only a cash settlement far below her expectations. The legal battle dragged on for years, with no clear resolution. This grueling war of attrition persisted until August 18, 2023, when the court finally issued a preliminary ruling. The court officially granted the divorce between Roe So-young and Che Tae-won. More significantly, it declared Che primarily at fault for destroying the marriage, citing his years of infidelity and the physical and emotional suffering inflicted on his wife. While Roe won the moral victory in determining who was responsible for the marriage's collapse, her triumph in asset division was less absolute. The court rejected her claim to SK Group shares, reasoning that they constituted a special inheritance of the Che family, not marital property subject to equal division, but a legacy tied to their lineage. Despite Roe's tireless efforts in raising their children, maintaining the household, and nurturing social connections, the court noted she had no direct role in SK Group's operational decisions. Contributions and share ownership, it ruled, were distinct matters. Furthermore, the court emphasized that dividing SK shares would alter the conglomerate's power structure, impacting not just the Che family, but also the stability of South Korea's economy. Thus, the shares remained intact, but Roe was awarded a cash settlement, $51.15 million for asset compensation, and $76,923 for emotional damages. In essence, she could not claim the shares, but would leave with a substantial sum and her dignity intact. Neither party was satisfied. Roe felt the ruling was unjust, while Che deemed the compensation excessive, arguing it would strain his ability to support Kim Hee-young and their daughter. His legal team called the decision unreasonable and biased. In 2024, after paying $3.31 million in legal fees, both Roe and Che faced off again in a new round of litigation. This time, Roe made concessions, dropping her demand for SK shares but revising her cash compensation request. She raised her claim from $1 billion to $1.54 billion and increased the emotional damages demand to $2.31 million. These staggering figures escalated the asset battle into an ever more harrowing saga. Some lawyers questioned whether the court's conflation of Che's infidelity with Roe's lack of involvement in SK's operations skewed fundamental principles in family law. They argued that divorce and asset division are separate issues. Why should her non-involvement in corporate management diminish her entitlement? Public sentiment, however, rallied behind Roe. Since the divorce became public in 2015, she had endured a decade-long struggle. Her resilience earned widespread respect and admiration across South Korea. No longer the submissive wife or a sidelined figure, Ro So-young emerged as a symbol of tenacity and courage, dubbed the Lone Lioness. The term lone isn't entirely accurate, as her 3 children stood steadfastly by her side. Throughout the ordeal, they offered not only emotional support, but also decisive action. Each child submitted letters to the appellate court, expressing unwavering support for their mother, urging her to fight on fearlessly and demanding fair compensation. On May 30th, 2024, the court issued its second preliminary ruling. It ordered Che Tae-won to pay Ro So-young $1.06 billion in assets and $2 million for emotional damages. The divorce saga finally drew to a close. Facing the media after the verdict, Ro could not conceal her emotions. 30 years of marriage ended like this, she said. It's truly heartbreaking that our family and private matters have caused such public concern. I feel deep regret and shame. I always believed a family is not a contract, but a covenant. And honoring that covenant is what sets humans apart from animals. She did not shy away from addressing Kim Hee-young, the woman who shattered her family, declaring, "Those who destroy others' families must face responsibility and consequences." This became South Korea's costliest divorce in history. As the final ruling landed, society reeled, under the glare of reporters' flashes, in the solemn air of the courtroom, and before the watchful eyes of the public. The marriage of Ro So-young and Che Tae-won officially ended. Kim Hee-young, immediately after the verdict, transferred funds to Ro and retreated to a quiet life, avoiding the spotlight. Over time, she appeared unaffected, her Instagram posts revealing a serene existence, seemingly moving past the turmoil to embrace a happy new chapter. By 2025, the latest reports indicated that Kim Hee-young and her daughter, with Che Tae-won, had settled into adulthood. Kim adopted a boy with Birdman syndrome, reportedly to model positive values for her daughter through charity. Her son with Che recently changed his surname to Che, becoming Che Tae-won's second son. The saga of the mistress continued to spark debate. Once, figures like Kim faced harsh criticism from Korean netizens when caught or posting on Instagram. Now, her mistress dreams had materialized, posing by luxury cars, mingling at elite galas. Some even mocked her as the SK lady, suggesting her ambitions had come true in the Chaebol world. Post-divorce, Ro So-young's life transformed dramatically. She re-emerged with a bold new image, swiftly reclaiming public attention. Her children thrived in their careers. On October 13, 2024, her second daughter, Che Min-jong, married a Chinese-American military officer in a ceremony attended by South Korea's Chaebol and political elite. The eldest daughter now serves as deputy director of SK's biotech division, while the youngest son has risen to a managerial role at SK's U.S. branch. One could argue that Ro So-young shines brighter post-divorce than she ever did in her husband's shadow. No longer Che Tae-won's wife, she has courageously stepped forward, crafting a new narrative unbound by the ghosts of her past. And so, today's story concludes. What are your thoughts on this case? Drop your opinions in the comments below to join the discussion. Before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch our next videos on true crime in the world.